everyone, and welcome back to the Homies Fantasy Football League Network. I'm Schmitty, filling in for the Comish Adam Drake this week, bringing you guys your Week 2 Fantasy Football recap. A lot of things to talk about today. First and foremost, injuries. If you somehow scathed by this entire week without a single injury in your lineup to worry about, I don't know how you did it. Leave your strats down below in the comments, I guess. But we're getting to your Week 2 matchups this week, going through everything, all the scores, stats, highlights, everything that you guys need to know that happened this last week. So let's get into our first matchup. This one, we got Will and we got Craig. This one was one of our bigger blowouts of this past week, and we've got a rough storyline for Will Hughes. First and foremost, the detrimental injury to Saquon Barkley, now out with a torn ACL for the entire season. The number 2 overall pick from Will is now gone for the year. Absolutely detrimental loss, and before his exit in this week 2, he wasn't really able to get much going. Just 28 yards, managing 2 fantasy points, a big loss, not just for this week, but obviously for the weeks to come for Will. Alongside that, Julio Jones, Austin Hooper, Danny Amendola, all 4 points apiece, and his Chiefs defense with -1. Just an all-around bad luck week for Will. Craig on the other side, honestly, a very good week. One of the big highlights here, Aaron Jones, 44 freaking points. People seem to ignore this dude and think at some point he's going to fall off just because of Aaron Rodgers being there in Green Bay. It's not happening. Aaron Jones is a beast. 168 yards on the ground, 3 total TDs, 44 fantasy points. Absolute stud week out of Aaron Jones. The final score between Will and Craig, 99-145. Our next matchup, we got Craig's dad taking on Orton. Some more injuries to talk about here. On the side here of Orton, starting Cam Akers, which already was a pretty risky play due to the great play of Malcolm Brown last week for the Rams. And it didn't get any better, managing just 1 fantasy point before going out with an injury. However, Orton's pass catchers more than made up for it. Hopkins with 20, Marvin Jones with 12, Deontay Johnson with 23, Genu Smith, the tight end from Tennessee, with 24, and Tyler Boyd managing 20 points as well. This gave Orton a whopping 146 points, minus another injury for him on his roster. Not a bad week at Craig's dad, though. 131, just some notables. Jimmy Garoppolo, not a great week, just 14 points out of the quarterback position. Not really going to do it. Some very mediocre weeks out of his running backs, David Johnson, Devin Singletary, 6 and 9 points respectively. Some good performances out of the pass catchers, just overall not enough to take down Orton's. Final score to that one, 131-146. Orton moves to 2-0, minus all the complaining he's done in the fantasy chat. How does it happen? Getting to our third matchup, we got Jose taking on David. Now in the group chat, Jose gets a lot of flack for his running backs, mainly because he's got one of the more fragile ones in Dalvin Cook. Somehow, with all the running back injuries that went down this week, Dalvin Cook was not one of them. Incredible. And speaking of incredible, another great week out of Jose. Dak Prescott, paid the man already. Will you? 43 points out of the Cowboys quarterback. Dalvin Cook with a pretty respectable 16 points. Tyler Lockett, another big day, 7 for 67 in a TD, managing 19 fantasy points. Kelsey, another big day. The dude's a wide receiver in the tight end slot, 24 points out of him. More than enough to take down David, who got a pretty big day out of Leonard Fournette, 27 points out of him. More than what was expected out of him with sharing time with Ronald Jones in Tampa Bay. 16 out of Amari Cooper, 19 out of Metcalf, but other than that, not really a lot to talk about. Deshaun Watson only managing 16. Not enough to take down what Jose did. Final score in that one, 145-122. Jose moves to 2-0. David falling to 0-2. Our fourth matchup this week, a really good one. This one came all the way down to the final game on Monday night between the Saints and the Raiders, with Dakota having Alvin Kamara and Carlos having Darren Waller. And they both had some big nights, but Kamara just took it one step further. By far our highest scoring matchup of the week, and one that ended up pretty close. Matt Ryan with 30, Kamara with 37, Chris Carson with 19, Calvin Ridley with 29. I mean, just points to go around for Dakota's team. Moving over to Carlos, 34 out of Kyler Murray. Might be the MVP this year, who knows? Another 20 out of Tyreek Hill. Stephon Diggs with 29. Waller ended up with 28. Just points everywhere. These guys need to share some with your boy because it ain't going too well. Final score in this one, 174-166. Another big scoring week out of these two guys. They both put up big numbers last week. Obviously, Dakota reaching, 186 last week. Now he follows it up with 174. He moves to 2-0. Carlos now in the loss column with 1-1. But a really good fantasy matchup this week. Coming into one of our final matchups here, we had Matt versus Dylan. Another really good fantasy matchup, but again, another one that's going to have some future implications beyond this week. And again, just like earlier, this one is involving one of the top picks in the draft, that being Christian McCaffrey. Unlike that of Saquon Barkley, McCaffrey did manage to put up some really good numbers before going out, ended his day with a very good 23 points, but it now looks like he's going to be sidelined for a few weeks. Not quite out for the year, but when you have the number 1 pick and someone as much of a stud as Christian McCaffrey, this one's probably going to hurt Matt for the future. However, didn't really hurt him this week. 30 out of Mahomes, 16 out of Keenan Allen, 18 out of John Brown. Defense and kicker both in double digits. Love to see it. On the other side for Dylan, we got Cam Newton with 37, Jacobs and Mixon, both of his running backs with 12 apiece. Scary Terry McLaurin of the Washington football team with 25 points, a big game out of him. And Hayden Hurst out of Atlanta with 18. Manages 133 points this week, just not enough to take down Matt's 148. Both teams now after this week at 1-1. But again, another unfortunate injury for Matt. We'll have to see how he manages that one as we go forward in the coming weeks. And our final matchup this week, yours truly, taking on Adam. The Intern versus the Comish. And this one was close, but fortunately your boy didn't do so hot. And again, I'm one of those that is going to be suffering from a running back loss. 19 out of Lamar, was hoping for a little bit more. A good 21 out of Ezekiel Elliott. Raheem Mostert, 18 points, but goes down with a sprained MCL. On the bright side, looks like he's going to be week to week, but I'm going to be struggling to find someone to fill that spot for sure. Just some mediocre performances out of the pass catchers, not having Chris Godwin hurt so bad this week. Moving over on the side of Adam, some solid performances out of his running backs, 12 and 18 respectively. Odell bouncing back from that 5-point performance from last week. But the story of the day, Tyler Higbee of the Los Angeles Rams, 28 points, 5 catches, 54 yards, 3 touchdowns on the day. Someone stop this man. That was the one that ended up hurting bad and ended up giving Adam the 6-point win, 122 to 116. Adam back up to 1-1, and I'm falling down to 0-2. Not a good start for you, boy. But that does it for week 2's recap of the Homies Fantasy Football League. Best of luck this week, guys. I'm sure a lot of you, like myself, are going to be tuning into the waiver wire, making some trades, something to try and help with these injuries. Looks like we're definitely in for a wild fantasy season. But if you guys enjoyed this week's recap, make sure to drop a like down below on this video. Leave your comments down below on anything from this week in fantasy football. Best of luck this week, guys, and we will see you next week with the Week 3 Fantasy Recap.